It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen,
Bueller, Bueller, Bueller.
laugh, and learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is The Focus Group with Tim Bennett
Stauncch.
and John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business, except when we're not.
Hey, welcome to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. We're all business except when we're not, and you can find us now on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play. And if you are, in fact, listening to us on iTunes as a podcast, we would like you to SLR, which is our fancy acronym for subscribe, like, and rate. FocusGroupRadio.com is your destination for all things Focus Group. And in fact, you'll find links to all the platforms we're available on there, so I encourage you to visit the website. And we do have a number here, and people are using it, actually. It's 914-362-8747 or 914-FOCUS-GR, or as Tim likes to say, FOCUS-GR. And if you leave a comment or question there, we may end up using it for a segment of the show called Ask Tim and John. And if we do end up using it on air, you'll get a pair of our famous Focus Group Radio socks. So we encourage you to call us, leave your comments and your thoughts. And did I miss anything in the setup here?
Well, it doesn't have to It doesn't have to be a question per se. It could be. We have a couple of calls we got this week. Ideas, thoughts, things we should consider doing. So we like feedback. So any kind of feedback we get is great.
Yeah.
How was your week, Mr. Nash?
Busy week. First thing I definitely want to get out of the way, in a good way, is I think we both got care packages from Paul in Mass.
Yes.
From his Ogunquit trip. And, you know, I have to say one of my favorite things last year was the Ogunquit road trip. Ogunquit was the best part of the trip. We got to see those guys and hang out. Bob and I got a little wedding gift.
Oh, that was sweet.
And it was that wonderful Stonewall Kitchens.
Right.
The Cafe con Leche, the
Williams-Sonoma of Maine.
Williams-Sonoma of Maine, yeah. It was this dip that I love, a spread, and then some jams and jellies, and then a cute little cutting board that looks like an old-fashioned postcard, and it says Ogunquit. And I think you got some of the famous.
I got from the Goldenrod, which is a favorite restaurant of mine from a child when we used to go up there.
We went to Goldenrod for
brunch,
and
I got the Goldenrod Kisses, which are an all-natural taffy, I would say, for lack of a better word. But I posted it on Facebook. Paul had sent me a note and said, "What are your favorite flavors?"
What are your favorite flavors?
Well, he put me on the spot. I always like licorice, and they never gave you enough in the box. So I said I like licorice. For some reason, I like the lime, and I liked peppermint molasses, and I tolerated peanut butter because peanut butter had real peanut butter in the middle. My grandmother liked that. I didn't
like peanut butter?
I didn't necessarily like it, but that was more nostalgia. So it was funny because a lot of my cousins responded because my grandparents they did a round robin. They would take a group of us each year. Different cousins got to go up to Maine with my grandparents, and so we always made a stop to get taffy.
We heard some great stories. It was York. Was it
York Beach, Maine.
York Beach,
Yeah.
right? I remember when you showed us the place you used to stay, which is now expensive condos.
Right, yeah, which is too bad.
It was this beachfront hotel, like a classic big old hotel.
I didn't like it because you had to share a bathroom.
Yeah.
And I still don't like that to this day. I don't like sharing a bathroom.
Do I?
And
what do they call that? Is it ensuite? What? There's a name.
Call it poor.
There's a name for if you. Someone told me this recently. I said,
I never heard.
Friends of ours, like Bob and I, want to go to London in September or something. Just 3 or 4 day trip. Goodbye
hotels
now.
are famous for that.
Well, and she calls us up and she said, "Oh, look, it's you have a private room, but the bathroom's en suite." And I don't know what that meant, and I think that might mean shared
another
bathroom.
room.
Not doing that.
It's funny because when I was at Subaru, I had a Brit. My very first commercial shoot I did for the Outback. This Brit was real crazy with me, and Ian Marlowe, he's a fun guy. So he said, "We're not staying in the nicest of places," and I said, "As long as I don't have to share a bathroom, I'm fine." So he sets up this whole scam with the hotel and with Karen, Alan, the whole group. And as we're starting to make our way from LA up to the hotel, they start telling me, you're gonna be sharing a room and sharing a bath with all these other production people. And I was by myself because I said I don't have a robe, I have no way to get to the bathroom. You know, if
You
you're
thought it was
sharing a
like down the
bathroom-
hall, like a dorm. You're going to be sharing your toiletries.
Because when he
or
would come to Philadelphia, he would do one of these old kind of bed and breakfasty things where he shared a bathroom. And I said, I don't want to do that. And he even had it down to where when I checked in, they said, we're sorry, Mr. Bennett, we're all out of rooms with private baths. You're going to be sharing. And I was going nuts. And then they finally were all in the parking lot laughing at me.
You had your own bathroom.
Own bathroom. But I went to Finland and had to share a room with somebody I didn't even know and a bathroom. It was a race car driver from
I'm
Britain.
sorry,
They put me with this Brit who was a rally car driver, and he was like Spanky from The Little Rascals. He wore these little tight black underwear at night, nothing else, wandering around the room, and I'm like, I don't like sharing a room.
You're not describing a horror scene. I mean,
No, you would not have.
all right.
Well, would you not if you didn't know somebody?
It's like
you were
it's-
traveling on business, and somebody said to you, "You know what, John? They're short rooms, so
No.
we're going to put John Smith with
There's
you."
two queen size in there. You're both going to be sharing the room. Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
What do you do? We were in Finland. There were no rooms, and they said, "Well, the rally driver is going to have to sleep with somebody. We put him with you, Bennett. We figured you're the talker. You could handle it." I said, "Well, okay." As there was ABBA playing in the lobby, of course, we were in Finland.
Dancing Queen. Da, da, da. And the other thing I would mention before we get into, let's also first talk about what's on the show today, right?
Oh, we have a show?
So joining us today in the back half of the show is going to be our guest, Mike Wilke, who is the founder of AdRespect.org. Mike began with Commercial Closet, actually, a site that archived and maintains an archive of all the LGBT advertising and marketing materials that you and I know very well, and some of them we're very responsible for. He'll talk about that, also how AdRespect is going, but he'll be mainly chatting about the transition in depicting LGBT people in advertising as brands get more comfortable with the whole thing.
So the evolution of it.
Very much so, yeah.
And then John mentioned earlier in the show when he opened up about our phone number, which is 914-362-8747 or 914-FOCUS-GR. We actually have a listener, Dan, is it Gwark?
Gorik.
Warwick. Okay, I saw the EK there. He had called into the line and has a sample of some cookies that he picked up right when he was in China that he wants us to try.
Chinese Oreo cookies.
So Chinese Oreo cookies. So we'll be doing that at the end of the show. A taste test, which I guess you cannot get here in the U.S.
No, they're flavors they don't make here in the U.S.
You know what they are? I couldn't read the box.
One was peach. It's a combination of peach and green grape, and the other is raspberry and blueberry, I think.
Peach
the
and
only
grape?
way you'll know it is by looking at the little illustrations on the box.
Oh, was that how
yeah.
you figured it out? Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, go ahead.
No, so I was going to say, and then you had last week or a week ago talked about what caught your eye with.
Yeah, that was after you and I
Delta.
got back from out in the vineyard, and I was walking down the terminal, and I saw Delta had put up "We Stand with Orlando," because at that point it was only a week after that horrific shooting down in Orlando, and one of our friends out in the Midwest, Jay, wanted us to know about Northwestern did something. Are they based Cleveland or Cincinnati?
I think they're Milwaukee, but they have offices all over the country.
It was one of the very first times they ever did a corporate initiative, and if you're watching on YouTube, we've shown 2 pictures of them lighting their buildings, some of their corporate headquarters, with the colors of pride.
Right.
Which I thought, and I think he said in his note that it's a pretty big thing for them because that was the first time they ever did something like this, right? And I think that's just cool when companies, stand up and do that.
Well, that reminded me when I saw the picture again. If you're watching on YouTube, is when they lit the White House in the rainbow colors after the marriage equality ruling, which I never would have expected in a million years to have seen that. So, but that's part of the gay agenda.
Our agenda. Moving on.
So
What caught your eye?
So there's a couple of things, quick ones, or I guess they could be quick. One of them is, and I got mad because CBS this morning, the Sunday morning show, caught my eye. Because I did it early. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to be ahead of the curve. But I wanted to keep it anyway because I liked the concept of it from a business standpoint. So apparently, if anybody's been to New York and you go to the Times Square area, which is cleaned up quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still full of fast food, and it's expensive. If you've ever been to New York to try to eat, and particularly if you want to get breakfast or something around Times Square, it can be expensive. So Kellogg's, which the cereal company, has decided to open a Times Square cereal restaurant. And what happens is they've hired a bunch of famous chefs. They actually have a Per Se alum, Anthony Rudolph, that's running it along with a bunch of other chefs. And what they're doing is you go into this very comfortable atmosphere for about $7.50 a bowl. You order your cereal. It's a Kellogg brand, so say you got cornflakes, and then you take it out of this red cubicle, almost like a locker in a grocery bag, and you got your milk. They give you the milk on the side. You can either eat it there or take it home. And their plan is, because cereal sales are declining, was to have people rethink cereal as a meal. It almost reminded me of Seinfeld a little bit, because what you can do is...
That's such a Seinfeld. I know.
Right, well, you can add, and a lot of people look at it for the shtick, but aside from bananas or berries or other things that you would put on your cereal, they're also coming up with a bunch of other things that they said are pretty simple that you could get at a store, but things like lime zest, marshmallows, blueberry jam.
You add those in?
They're doing ice cream. Right, you can pick things off a menu and do it. And they said the thought is, why Kellogg's did this, the head of marketing, see if I could pull up his name, Andrew Shripka, who's the head of marketing. He's the marketing guy at Kellogg's. He said that the point of this was the hope that if you came here, and aside from the nostalgia, because you do also get a little toy, like you would as a kid.
Yeah.
And he said the hope is that using simple ingredients like nuts or pistachios or whatever, that you can then go back when you're in the grocery store and buy a box and rethink cereal again. That is, you don't just add milk with it. You can add bananas. I always love cornflakes with bananas. So
actually, it's good for you too.
So
it's an experience. He's turning cereal more experiential.
Right, and it's
that's what you would go to that time.
And it's all day long. They serve it all day long. It's about $7.50 a bowl. Some people balked at the price, but if you've ever eaten breakfast on Times Square, if you are at the Sheraton or any of those hotels, you can spend $30, $40 for 2 eggs and bacon.
Sweat. You're out 20-some.
Right, so I didn't think this was bad at all. And then during the day, they also have other items such as snacks, ice cream, based dishes, and various types of toppings, as they say. They're going to start also doing a delivery service. I thought this would be fun for us to go try.
Oh yeah, I'm
for lunch one day.
Well,
get a picture.
You want to do lunch at the Kellogg's?
What would you want to do?
Okay, well, it feels like breakfast to me.
Did you ever have cereal for dinner?
No.
No.
Cereal?
You weren't one of those kids for cereal for dinner? Okay, I'm surprised by that. The other one is the Red Cross had to issue an apology this week for their racist swimming pool poster. So again, if you're watching YouTube, I posted the poster. You could also search for it online anywhere. Just hit in Red Cross racist swimming pool poster. It was supposed to be the name of the poster was supposed to be depicting kids, or the poster was about depicting good behavior and bad behavior at the pool. So it was set up for kids as how they should behave.
Don't run, don't.
Right. So they said the cartoon posted. So the cartoon posters showed several minority kids doing not cool things, and all the white kids doing the cool activities.
All the Caucasians were okay.
So they said the Red Cross issued a formal apology this week for the swimming pool safety poster, which some has decried as racist. The cartoon poster is titled "Be Cool, Follow the Rules." It depicts a fictional pool scene with various activities marked as cool or not cool. Of the 5 not cool designations, such as running, diving, or pushing someone in the pool, 4 of them were done by the minority children. The two cool activities, swimming with a parent and using the diving board properly, were done by the white people. So apparently this has gone on for a while. There was a complaint by a group who knew they existed called Black Kids Swim, and they've been trying to get the poster down since 2014. They finally have decided that they're going to take it down, and they're going on. They said, we're currently in the process of completing a formal agreement with a diversity advocacy organization for their guidance moving forward in developing posters, which reminded me of the Jesse Jackson Kiss Ass tour. Did you ever see that in South Park where they get in trouble and you got to go see
I remember that. They did that.
But I looked at the poster and I wondered about it, and I didn't know
how that got through.
Well,
you would have to. I doubt that the people that approved it thought anything was wrong with it.
Yeah, that was my point. I remember, and you and I have talked about this before, when I had worked on a commercial with Martina Navratilova for Subaru, there was a tennis scene and there was a line judge. And if anyone knows anything about tennis, a line judge stands on the line, the balls go by, and they in or out. And we had cast an African-American male for the line judge. They were flooded that we were making the black guy looked stupid for missing the ball. We said it's a line, judge. He's not playing tennis.
Yeah.
They thought he was playing tennis against Martinez, so we had to pull it. And there were a number of ads that way, whether it was heavy people that made the bad guys are too
you
fat.
had one with a deer.
Snake lobby, the bunny lobby. I mean, all kinds of people will find something wrong. This one, I did look at it. I didn't notice it until they pointed it out. I just looked at the poster.
Because I had read about this as well, and it took me the reading of the article to realize what they had done. So and I'm wondering if you almost want to go into the office to see like who was approving it. I bet it's. I'm just going to say it's probably, it wasn't.
Well, the Red Cross did respond. They're doing all the right things. They pulled the poster and all the other things. But if you want to go, we'll put that on our Facebook page, which is Focus Group Radio during the week. You take a look at it as well. So how about you? What caught
All right, so I have two caught my eyes. One of them is really quick, and it's just for you because of your obsession with North Korea and the illustrious, what is Kim Jong-Un was the
son of Kim Jong-il.
But Kim Jong-il, what was his title? He was the beloved...
Well, the great leader, the dear leader.
The dear leader, the beloved leader. Okay, so apparently being a despotic dictator really fucks you up.
Was this an article?
This is from the UPI. Since he took power in 2012, he weighed 198 pounds. And now they assume, they actually believe, based on all this stuff that they've been looking at, that he weighs 286 pounds now.
That's lobster and cognac.
Yeah, and he's, I do think it's like absolutely fabulous. Another one who has ballooned.
Oh my gosh. Well, they said he had feet problem. They thought it might have had the gout at one time.
Well, he eats to cope with all the stresses and threats against him, which I'm sure his starving subjects would understand.
Yeah. That make me laugh.
Threats and all the threats, yeah.
Someone did something recently, and I thought this is where you were going with this. Somebody did a close-up of all the military people. When they do, they're the capital of goose stepping, the country of goose steppers, and they did a close-up of the troops and how emaciated they were.
Oh, well,
get a spoonful of rice a day, and then you got chubby there.
He says, surely his starving subjects would understand his stress eating. Look at that food.
You think he's only 30, 31?
Yeah, he's not in a good way.
Wow.
How old is he? 30, 31?
Well, they think.
See, that's the whole thing about the Shadow Empire. No one knows what's going on over there.
Or whether he has kids.
So the other thing that caught my eye was this. I just laughed because the headline was "Everyone is lying about not watching TV." And I'll just read the opener because I think it's perfect. Saying I don't own a TV is a good way to let people know that you're a pretentious asshole. Because how many people have said it? I mean,
I don't have a TV. I don't have a cable.
But even though more and more people are eager to tell you they don't have TV, don't be fooled. You better believe that they are still watching TV. So Nielsen did a study, and if you're watching YouTube, he put up a chart here. The average American is now watching 4.5 hours of television a day, which sounds like a lot. That's only live TV. If you add in time-shifted or DVR content, it's over 5 hours a day. But the most interesting thing about the Nielsen study was where we're watching it. It's no longer exclusively on the TV. So there was this other chart they had about products, and how we're consuming stuff. So tablets and smartphones, and of course like a multimedia device, which might be a Xbox or a game that has the ability to hook up to the internet, overwhelmingly huge jumps in people using those to watch content. And so the article concluded by saying, surely millennials aren't watching TV though, right? Because they're so busy doing other things like not driving and being poor. Remember how everybody talks about how the millennials don't drive, they want to share everything, the sharing economy.
Got Uber.
Nope, millennials watch slightly less TV. It varies depending on their living situation, but they're still watching about 2.5 hours per day. For their age group, they're right on the target.
I'm at the bottom of that chart because I don't watch a lot of content on a tablet or a phone, a mobile device.
We watch primarily on the
TV set, right? Which my guess is someday will just be simply a screen that does everything, right?
Well, it's all the devices, right? I mean, I do watch on the iPad if I'm traveling. So I do watch on the laptop. So it's wherever you can click the button and watch the show.
Wow.
So that was what caught my eye. So when people say they're not watching TV, they're watching TV. Yeah, they're watching it.
It's like the demise of the 30-second commercial, right?
They're still going strong, right?
Today, July 9th, it's National Sugar Cookie Day. Do you like sugar cookies?
I love sugar cookies. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, look at the little...
So it's 6 very simple ingredients: sugar, flour, butter, eggs, vanilla, and baking powder.
I'm surprised you didn't go sugar.
Sugar. My grandmother used to throw a little lemon zest in it, which I used to love. But so it's National Sugar Cookie Day. If you stick it in the coffee too long, though, it'll disintegrate quick. 1808, the leather splitting machine was patented. You and I need to come up with a patent. I was thinking about that. Aside from we missed Facebook and a few other things. I wonder if we could do a machine.
That boat, yeah. Boy, did that boat sail.
Imagine if you lived in the late 1800s. You could have invented everything. The phone, the light bulb.
But you had to invent it. That's the thing, right?
1847, the 10-hour workday was established for workers in the state of New Hampshire. Oof. 10 hours.
Just making a face like, who did someone establish that? Yeah, like, oh, we better have that number and codified.
Yeah. 1868, the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was ratified. Remember, that was a big part of the Supreme Court's decision with marriage equality. So that happened 1868, the 14th Amendment was ratified. 1872, the donut cutter was patented by John Blondell. You know, donut cutter, so you put a little hole in the donut. Do you know why they put the hole in the donut? So there were two schools of thought. So there's
something about the baking, or
that would be the obvious one. But they said there was some sea captain that used to like fried cakes, and the cook could never, when he cooked the cakes, they would always be a little raw in the middle. And one day there was a rough storm, and the captain went up. He needed to be in the wheel and stuck the donuts through the holes, and then ate them and thought they were delicious because the raw part was out. Now, we all think that was made up.
Oh boy! So you're telling me the skipper is at one of those?
Right, he's at the wheel with the spokes and stuck the donuts through it, and then said, "Oh, I got the raw out." But no, apparently they do take the hole out so that they cook evenly on the inside, because a lot of times donuts don't cook in the middle. But that begged for me to ask: there's a lot of donuts that aren't holeless, right? They have cream in them or something.
There's
those aren't raw.
Cream. Yeah.
So I don't get it. But anyway, the donut cutter was patented. 1877, Alexander Graham Bell, Gardner Hubbard, and Thomas Sanders and Watson formed the Bell Telephone Company. 1878, the corncob pipe was patented by Henry Tibby. You see a picture of him with his pipe there. He's quite a dandy, isn't he?
But that's
General MacArthur
and his corncob pipe.
His corncob pipe, but I thought that's a real piece of corncob.
He really did carry around a corncob pipe?
Apparently.
I mean, he's photographed with it all.
Did you ever smoke out of a corncob pipe?
No.
No? I'd like to try. I don't smoke.
Well, that's probably why you haven't smoked out of a corncob pipe. Okay.
Mike Tyson was banned from boxing and fined $3 million when he bit the ear off of opponent Evander Holyfield. I would have beat the crap out of the guy. What would you do if somebody bit your ear off?
It's disgusting. It's, strange thing.
He's a Trump supporter,
Tyson,
apparently.
They were going to have him be at the convention or something, remember? I was reading about some of the sports celebrities Trump wanted to have there.
Sunday, July 10th in 1900, his master's voice was registered with the U.S. Patent Office. It was a logo for the Victor Recording Company, otherwise known as RCA, and the dog. You remember the dog's name?
No.
Looking into the gramophone.
Oh, wait a minute. I should know this.
Not sure the name would get through today. Nipper.
Nipper. Okay.
Nipper. In 1985, we all remember this, probably one of the biggest business blunders ever. Coca-Cola resumed selling the old formula of Coke, which was renamed Coca-Cola Classic.
Right.
It was announced that they would continue also selling the new Coke. I don't know if they still sell new Coke.
No.
1985.
Gone.
Whoever came up with that idea?
There was a brilliant marketing ploy to make us all like, oh my God, we have to have the original Coke back because this is so bad. It kind of worked, right?
Makes no sense to me. The 1804, the United States, this is very hot right now with Hamilton on Broadway, but the Secretary of the Treasury, Alexander Hamilton, 1804, was killed by the Vice President Aaron Burr in a duel. And actually, Hamilton didn't really think he was going to get shot. They thought it was just going to be a charade. Dead.
Boom, like shoot off to the side or something, yeah.
And in 2008, it seems so long ago, the Apple iPhone 3G was released.
Apple, yeah, it does.
3G.
2008?
2008 was Apple's.
Wow, only 8 years ago. Look how, woof.
A lot of things have happened. Where are we with science this week?
Science. Now we get to the facts of the show.
Oh!
Facts of the show. All right, so this week in science. This is a fun week because July 9th, Saturday, or wait, we're 7, 8, Saturday 9th. Voyager 2 passed by Jupiter in 1979. Now, it's an interesting fact because on July 4th this year,
Right.
NASA successfully put in orbit around Jupiter the new probe called Juno, which is going to be there for 34 orbits of the largest planet in the solar system. So Voyager,
A gas giant?
it is indeed a gas giant. Very good. It's one of the big ones. It's up there with Saturn, and those are two of the biggest.
How big is it compared to Earth?
I
Twice
think
the size,
it's
3
about
times?
500 times the mass of Earth or something. Yeah, it's enormous.
You live there?
No.
Gas.
It's all, you don't want to be there.
Just a gas ball?
You live in the little red dot, the storm, which is supposed to be like a million hurricanes at once. Born on July 10th is Nikola Tesla. Now, Tesla, he died in 1943 at the age of 86. So he had a good long life. Serbian-American inventor and researcher who designed and built the first alternating current induction motor.
Is that why we have Tesla cars?
Tesla,
Or electric?
you're right. He was, because he's considered the father of electricity. And if you watch Ancient Aliens on TLC or the History Channel, many believe that he had somehow been given a gift by the aliens to come up with all these great ideas. And
See, I would have thought along the line of Tesla, that was going to be caught your eye this week, the autopilot Tesla car that crashed.
Yeah, the guy was watching a movie in the car or something when that car went off.
Disney movie, I think. I think that's what it
imagine
was.
it was a Disney movie?
Frozen, probably.
Let it go, let it boom. So Westinghouse, George Westinghouse bought his patents and he put them into use when he built the Niagara Falls Power Station. This next one is Telstar. July 10th, the Telstar 1, the world's first geosynchronous active communications satellite, was launched from Cape Canaveral. It was developed by AT&T, was one of the big pioneers of that, and that was used to bounce television signals off of. The thing looks like, we're looking at it here, if you're...
I thought it was a globe.
You, in fact, Tim typed in the notes, globe. I'm thinking, I don't know what would have given you that. The coil at the top. I like the guy in the hat.
Or it could have been a light from Restoration Hardware. Looks like one of those things.
So in the U.S., when Telstar was put into service for the first satellite television, it made possible the first live television signals sent across the Atlantic. Viewers in France and England saw President Kennedy conduct a press conference. And here in the U.S., we watched French singer Yves Montand and the changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace. So they got Kennedy, we got entertainment. I know they know us, right?
V and Rose.
No picture for this because this is hard to picture, but in July 12th, Skylab re-entered the atmosphere. Everybody thought it was going to be... The only fatality was a cow in Australia.
I thought it just all crumbled in.
Oh, it all burned up on the way
They
down.
plan where it's going to...
They try. They deorbit.
So you wanted
into
to go
the
in
Pacific Ocean, yeah,
where
usually.
Where the Malaysian flight went
There was a section of the station, though, did survive the re-entry heat and struck a cow and killed it in Australia. So,
supposedly.
And then last but not least, this is something that I would love to see, really love to see this, the Terracotta Army. This is in China. In 1975, archaeologists announced the uncovering of 3 acres of a burial mound, and contained within it were 7,000 life-size clay soldiers and horses, all fitted up for battle. So it's like when they first revealed it, the archaeologists cleared away the remains of 6 of these soldiers, and as they kept digging, they realized they had rows and rows and rows of these things. I think they're really cool.
You go to Pier 1 and see a lot of that, can't
The
you?
figures were modeled after the emperor's real army, and each has a different face.
I thought they were orange.
The terracotta?
Yeah.
Terracotta, you'd think it would be that clay color, right? But they were actually, according to archaeologists, they were painted.
Was it to scare everybody?
They had face paint. They were all they looked like an army. That was to protect him in the, I guess.
So what was that shed to the left? What was that?
That thing that you're looking at,
Yeah.
if you're looking on YouTube, that's the covering for the entire archaeological.
Oh,
dig.
so they have, okay.
So those are all the rows. So on the right, it's
my
the
God.
soldiers. On the left, it's the rows and rows of them in the burial
I wonder
mound.
if you could buy one.
A reproduction, you sure could. I'm sure China makes it. Buy a terracotta soldier.
I want that one.
I want that one, yeah. I want the one with that face, yeah.
Is that
That's
your week in science?
Yeah, that's week in science, yeah.
All right, we have 2 quick business birthdays celebrating on today's date, July 9th. He's 78 years old. The former CEO and chairman of Quaker Oats, William Smithburg. He's 78 years old. It appears to me to be a pretty unremarkable career. I tried to find out more about him, so if anybody knows William Smithburg and would like to get a hold of us, let us know. But He had 35 years he was at Quaker Oats, which leads me to believe, and he was in charge for most of that time, that nothing remarkable happened. I don't know. Maybe he just kept the ship steady. Graduate of DePaul University and got his MBA at Northwestern. The one fact that did stand out that led me to believe, I guess I set my opinion about him based on this. He supported Santorum for president twice. All you need to know.
That's all I need. Yeah.
And celebrating on Monday is Giorgio Armani. Want to guess how old Giorgio is? He's 82 years old, Giorgio Armani. He's, of course, the Italian fashion designer noted for his menswear, his particularly very clean and tailored lines. He founded Armani back in 1975. He's acclaimed as one of the most successful designers ever out of Italy. Annual revenues of close to $2 billion. His fortune amassed close to $10 million. And, B with a billion.
Billion, yeah.
Huge
empire.
Right.
So,
and he's credited with pioneering the red carpet fashion. He's also, they said, a very intensely private man, but he has publicly identified himself as a bisexual. As Suzanne Sugarbaker would say, remember, bisexual. Bisexual.
Okay, so that was what my question was going to be. Was I never got a sense that that was ever discussed or, you know.
Well, he had a long-standing relationship with an architect named Sergio Gagliotti, who died of AIDS-related complications, but it was never really much talked about, other than that they were in some sort of relationship. But he's intensely private, and but Armani, the style of Armani stuff really is just.
I believe that you actually used to always buy Hugo Boss.
I was about Hugo Boss, but I loved Armani ties.
Yeah, and
ties were beautiful.
Fantastic. And for me, he had a line of men's suits called Mani.
Really?
M-A-N-I, and it was meant to be a direct competitor to Hugo Boss, more American,
right,
box cut kind of thing.
Oh. Well, hey, it's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. We're going to take a quick break. If you get a chance and you're out there, as John says, subscribe, like, or rate us at any of your platforms of choice. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have joining us Mike Wilke to talk to us about the evolution of LGBT advertising. So stay with us.
The Focus Group is brought to you by the newly redesigned Volkswagen Passat. Give your family time a serious upgrade. Visit VW.com to learn more.
Just look at each other. We're not looking at the camera.
You're looking at this way. Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. Find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher. Actually, I think the YouTube is the connoisseur of media consumption because you get to see the pictures, you get to see us interacting. Social media is Focus Group Radio, and all things social Focus Group are at focusgroupradio.com, where you'll see all the icons for all the platforms you can get our show on. Joining us now is a good friend of ours, Mike Wilke, who is the founder of AdRespect.org. He's a lot of other things, too, but that's the main title. So, Mike, welcome to the show. It is a good thing. Welcome, sir. So tell us a little bit about, before we get into some of the things we want to talk to you about, big thing for listening or watching is Mike has been a big force in the LGBT marketing space for, I would say, decades.
Yes,
plural.
it actually is decades, as it turns out.
Decades,
20 years.
Plural, yeah.
19 years.
Ish.
Yeah, so you've seen a lot of things happen. In fact, you began reporting on this. Were you Ad Age or were you
Ad Age?
Ad Age, and your beat was not necessarily LGBT.
I had more beats than anyone else. I was covering airlines and food and outdoor and radio.
The gays.
And yeah, well, just because it was of interest to me and it was a developing area at the time. I covered the rise of LGBT marketing, really, and that's how we got to know each other to some degree as your career developed and mine co-developed in a different way.
Actually met on a magazine.
Yeah.
I was art director for Genre magazine for all of, I think, 2 or 3 issues, and Mike...
Which was how many I interned for as a journalism.
Was that a competitor to Advocate?
They were one of the
young kids listening.
Yeah, it was Instinct, Genre, Out, Advocate. Out came later, actually. Out came a lot later.
92 for Out.
And Genre was a book that was published by the publisher of Passport magazine, Don Tuthill. And Mike was a proofreader and a copywriter who came by. And we used to do this this all on boards.
Yes.
So Mike would come by and look at the boards and do all the corrections to the typesetting and
So do you guys
literally hand
Yeah.
So
writing
what year
corrections.
would that have been? The 94, 90?
90, 91.
Yeah, 90,
So
91.
do you remember who was was anybody doing gay specific advertising?
Yeah,
then?
there was
Absolute was there.
Absolute was there, of
Yeah.
course. But anyone else? Do you remember?
There was a couple of local things for the New York area, like there was Definitions, was a gym that did personal training for people. I mean, that made sense.
There was Miller Beer. There were a
sin
few
categories,
and actually, there were some magazines like After Dark that predated the sort of modern era of gay magazines, where After Dark was about theater and not technically a gay magazine, but they actually carried a lot of very specifically gay ads for small businesses at the time, and it was the precursor to the big modern gay magazines era.
You know, you mentioned Absolute, and you followed, as John did the intro. You've been following probably closer than anybody else in our industry what has gone on in LGBT advertising. And the one thing that I've been surprised by is when you look at Absolute, American Airlines, Subaru. I guess is maybe if you call
A
that
few more IBM.
If you-
throw in there.
But if you
Certainly
call those
IBM,
those
Amex,
three as a maybe even Amex as the gold standard, they all seem to have stopped doing it, and no one cares. Is that an accurate statement?
Well, when you define what no one cares means,
Well, I'll
there's
say- yeah.
no one protesting, right?
No, but I thought it was so
the
important.
media cares, right?
but it was
'Cause
so
the
important-
magazines have suffered as
Right, but it was so
papers
important
have
at the
suffered.
time for people to see companies talk to them directly in the first person, and John's agency was one of the leads on that, and me at my time at Subaru. Our thought was when that stopped, because a lot of those brands still get the goodwill from it. There's even been articles, John and I were just interviewed 2 weeks ago from somebody that found out, I don't even think he was born yet when the campaign launched.
Yeah, I
and
know.
I said, this was done in 1995, 96, this is old news. And he goes, I think it's a story that needs to be
I was
told.
surprised they did it.
Yeah, but it got over 100 and some thousand hits and reads and shares and everything on social media. But we always marvel at the fact that it doesn't seem like these brands that did start have seemed to have either petered out or they don't just seem to do it anymore. Is that true, or is that just my imagination?
No, it's not your imagination. And in fact, I put it on the list of things we could talk about. Thinking about Subaru coming in, and it's like, where is it?
They're still riding on the goodwill.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say. I mean, I think there's still goodwill and halo from the long work that they did, and that's what you're supposed to get when you invest, right? You get a return.
You are.
And I've always said that if an advertiser shows loyalty to a community, the community will return that loyalty. You can't just put up an ad for a minute and expect that to happen. It comes over time. So it's still there, but are people clamoring for more of this? In a way, I mean, we're sort of post that era, I think, in many ways, because so much has happened, both corporately and in society, right? That what people are looking for now is don't do bad, at least, right? They expect you not to do something stupid, and that still occasionally happens. I mean, Target put their foot in it a while back. This is a while back now, but they were doing well. They put their foot in it, and now they've come back since then. I think they
Was that the donation, the political donation?
Yeah.
And then they did that weird thing where they had T-shirts for the LGBT community that they only sold online.
Yeah.
You could only get them, couldn't get them in the store or something. But
Secret code.
And Ford, had a mistake also back then too.
Boom. Yeah, that was a kaboom.
Yeah, so it does happen. It doesn't happen much now, and I think what we're seeing now is an expansion. The whole thing with what's the chicken place?
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. Thank you.
See, you don't eat there.
That
you don't
place
eat
that
there.
I don't go. They just opened one in New York too.
Yeah, I
don't
know. It was like on 6th Avenue and 36 or 37.
But they were big supporters of the community and feeding everybody with the whole Orlando problem. They opened on Sundays,
haven't heard that.
Yeah, they opened on Sunday, which they don't do for religious
Yep.
reasons, but they did open Sunday, and they did feed the volunteers and workers and the people in the
Really?
lines.
I didn't know that. I
for the
did
blood
not know
bank.
that.
Yeah, and I was surprised that didn't get more coverage.
But I think people are paying closer attention to what corporate behavior is about, with Chick-fil-A, with Michael's, and some of the decisions that happened legally in terms of what they can and can't do, and sort of bringing out into the open the corporate culture that can extend to consumer culture and people's decision to buy or not buy. So when things go wrong, they go very wrong.
Now, one of the last times I saw you, you had a fascinating thing for me, and I'm going to actually have Ben put it up on the monitor for us. When a hotel in the past would advertise, let's say Hilton, or it could be Westin or any one of the brands, you would never. So what we're looking at, if you're watching YouTube or if you're listening to the podcast, I'm sorry, is Hilton has a campaign called Stop Clicking Around, and the LGBT version of the campaign, the execution for our community, has two guys in bed. Their shirts off, they're embracing. They woke up, they're doing whatever they do. Let the consumer complete the circle, but
Cuddling.
that would never have been. And I just for reference sake, I showed the straight creative or the non-gay, just to show you that they're not doing anything that out of the creative brief. They're showing people,
imagery.
consuming a vacation, enjoying the room, whatever it may be. You would never have seen this 10 years ago, right?
I would not have approved that either. I wouldn't approve it now.
Are you
I
serious?
think it's horrible. I mean, if I'm looking at it, right, they're just laying in bed. What are they doing?
They're in bed. They're
Not clicking
they're
around.
enjoying they're enjoying like a Sunday morning or whatever in some city, USA.
They're having their we'll call it honeymoon, morning.
But I think the thing is, you would never that we were never allowed to show people within 3 feet of each
Well,
other.
they can't touch.
Yeah, they can't be touching. Yeah. So this was something that you had noted a while. You wrote an
There's
article.
actually a video version now with that campaign, not of those two same ones in bed, but they're in an infinity pool overlooking the ocean, and they embrace. It's sort of dark and from behind because it's a sunset, but still, it's
so
integrated into their.
The calculus is that if Hilton's doing this, they know their market. And this has an appeal to the consumer, and I wonder if there's actually an uptick in bookings, or how would they even, have they talked about this at all, or?
Well, I interviewed them, and they said that they're perfectly happy with this campaign. It's integrated. It's part of what they've done across media and across demographics. And what's interesting to me is that they're not the only ones doing it. So I wrote an article recently that also brought together PNC Bank.
Yep.
Has two dads in bed with their child reading.
Yeah, Ben just put that up for us. Yeah.
The financial services seems to have.
Now, so this is bank. So this
Right.
is family. We're starting out.
And Wells Fargo did the two women last year, and travel has always been ahead of the curve, I think. So I think you'd expect it from hotels, but the hotel one, I wonder if you actually, when you talk about the embrace at the pool, if all the guests are as enlightened as maybe Hilton is. To
If
be
all the
comfortable
guests
doing
are?
that. Yeah.
We'll say no. I mean, 100% of the population isn't comfortable
Right.
with
And so
sex affection.
So I wonder how it really is, if you focus group that sort of thing, and just a general market, how it would go.
That video is going to run online only, as far as I know. I don't think it's going to appear on cable or TV broadcasts. And as advertisers have the flexibility to do that, not only is it flexible, but it's oftentimes more advantageous to have very targeted ads that you're not putting on broadcast TV, and you're only going into video channels or.
If you were still reporting
or
on that,
cable.
and you do write, you do still report, and you've written several articles about this. But if you were doing an article like, I said to you, I want to really dive into that notion of media destined for social channels or for TV. Are we at the point where it's just media, or there's no like second child, like there's the primo TV? I mean, it's like when Chevy did Mom, Dad, I'm Electric for the Volt.
Right.
That only appeared on Facebook, right? And there might have been a print ad eventually. But it was in book. It was an advocate or out. And is there still a sense that they can do this only because of the media, and it's not a general?
No, I would say to the contrary, because every Super Bowl for the past, I don't know how many, more than a decade, there have been LGBT themed ads. And this last one, we had more than ever.
You called the six.
I found 6 of them. And led quite interestingly by Minnie Cooper with an ad about diversity and defy.
It's about labels, right?
Yeah, defy labels. It was.
What were the other ones? Do you have them listed? I don't.
The other advertisers.
Mike has here.
The Super Bowl 6.
Axe was Find Your Magic.
Yeah, and so there was.
Okay. So Axe, Minnie
Snickers was the William Dafoe, Marilyn Monroe on the Great, and with the there's a lot of great little character bits in there actually. Wix was funny to me. Wix.com, the website builder. You had Snickers with Billy Eichner. He's the guy that runs up to people on the street and does that, but he's gay, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
it wasn't about him being gay. It was an inclusive ad.
Him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And same for Wix.
And Honda Ridgeline, Somebody to Love.
Yeah, that was it's the Queen song. That was a bit of a stretch, that one, but still, it's just kind of fun, and it was about love. So it was a pretty interesting Super Bowl, but every year we're seeing that. And on the Olympics we saw that. We saw that with Coke and with a couple of Chevy brands,
Which same thing happened with Ford. I think there was some internal dissension as well. I think that happened with some of those brands. That's what happens with some of the bigger companies. I think the smaller companies can get away with it because they're more nimble. And I think a bit more forward-thinking. When you have these huge conglomerates, you can't please everybody. Yeah. And I think it ends up being an issue.
What do you say about Subaru? Why, is it because you guys left?
Yeah. I mean, I would
champions
say,
were
I would say we've said this a lot about a lot of brands. I think there's a few misnomers out there. There's a ton of gay money for advertising.
That's always
gay advertising. Not happening. Not happening.
Black and I are counting the coins out of the bag.
We've had Volkswagen here now going on 7 years. That's been supportive of our show here and on our former platform, and very thankful for that. And they're one of the few that is still investing significantly, we think, in the marketplace. Very few. But you need an internal person. The agencies aren't going to do it. The agencies we've got a gay guy over here. He'll be able to do the spot for you. We'll throw, like Hilton. We'll put 2 guys in bed and we're all done with our gay campaign. And so I think the agencies aren't going to do it. You need an internal champion, and you need somebody that fights for it. I had to fight for that program every single year, more so than any other program. I had to prove it sold cars, and I had to fight for it. We were told through the grapevine, and I was actually told directly by somebody internally, that after I left, the thought was that the LGBT marketing, it was a distraction.
Ouch.
So? And what happens is you get the AFA, you get all of these people that protest. We used to get letters and letters and letters of people protesting. And you have to have somebody internally that can deflect all that. And if there's somebody within the marketing department that's not necessarily either supportive of the program or really behind it, and it could be not behind football. I mean, it could be anything.
Right.
But if they're not behind the LGBT program, they don't want to take the heat.
I get the sense, though, that it's easier to say yes now than it used to be. When you look at the volume, the number of companies, and the diversity of companies who are doing it, even if it still relies on having a champion like yourself at the company who leads those things, I think it shows that there is progress here. And certainly our culture is so much further along that...
Yeah, I don't know. John and I were asked, John and me, or is it John and I? John and I think.
You were asked. Take the other person out, and then if
John and me was asked.
I was asked.
John and I were asked to speak at a couple of Fortune.
Mike would be the guy that knows
this
too, right?
We get corrected all the time. So, John, we were asked a couple of times to speak to companies about their LGBT efforts, and they were all internal efforts, and 2 well-known big brands. What are you and John going to talk about? Well, here's what our thought is, and then we got disinvited because a lot of it is just I think again the perception is, there's a lot of companies that are supportive, but it's internal employee groups, which are important, but there always seems to be the missing consumer-facing programs.
Well, our expertise was the external message, not the B2B or the the company message or the employee resource group, but it was the external consumer-facing message of not only do we have these great resources and we have these great gay and lesbian employees or the LGBT community in our companies, we're going to talk to you too because you're our customer, and we're going to make special materials for you, or maybe not. Maybe they just do a media buy in an LGBT publication or space. But those two engagements were interesting because they want us to speak directly to the power of an ERG, Employee Resource Group. And then we get on the phone with these guys and we're like, all well-intentioned, super cool. But we're like, the real mystery to us is if you're spending all this money and time, why aren't you just talking to your gay customers? They'll appreciate it. Believe me, they're already buying your product, and they would really
two big consumer product brands. I mean, household names, and wouldn't touch it.
No, not with the maybe with a 20-foot pole, but we didn't offer that. We only offered a 10-foot pole at the time. So,
You need the extension.
yeah. So I think that as much as things change, sometimes they stay the same. And I do think it's expedient nowadays for agencies and creatives to say, well, we're living in such a time of acceptance that we're going to cover off these groups by showing this person, this person, and this person. Do you see a lot of that popping up as well? Where there's really, it's something you said earlier, which I filed away. It's like, are we really post the need for custom LGBT creative?
I've always thought that maybe the Holy Grail was inclusion in general media. And there's a lot more of that going on. Now, LGBT media would fight fiercely against that. I would like for that to be an included part, an integrated media campaign. But I think because my mission has always been not to sell the market, but to create a more comfortable place for the community in our society, that the way to do that is through general media and to be included as part of the landscape, which we are.
So by that example, or by that thought process, you would definitely put Amazon's Kindle ad from a year ago, like where
a couple years ago.
Was it really?
Yeah. It's been several years.
Shit.
The Paperwhite. Yeah, the Paperwhite.
So a guy, I know they're both a
man and woman are on the beach.
and they're reading
to each other.
and maybe one's reading the iPad, and
Yes.
but their spouses are getting drinks at the bar, and
Yes.
it turns out that it's the husband is bringing the wife the drink, and the guy's partner or husband is
doing the
bringing
same
for
thing.
him. And Amazon did that and got a lot of great feedback on it, and it was to support the Paperwhite. But that's your notion, that would fit your criteria
Yes.
of a general market message that
Yes.
featured an LGBT sub story or a story that's
Right.
woven in.
And is not gay vague.
And it wasn't.
not at all, not vague at all.
Yeah.
But does that then, and this is I guess the argument on the other side then, does that then put out or take away the need to have an LGBT specific ad agency or to have LGBT specific books?
Remember when a minute ago I said that my goal has always been to make a more comfortable society.
Right.
To your question, it does not invalidate, or it's very necessary. If you want to sell to the LGBT market, you still need to reach them, I think, in multiple outlets. It can't only be the inclusive sell as well. It has to also be a way that speaks to them as directly as possible. That's hard, though, because there are so few media outlets left.
Right.
And,
There's so few agencies that specialize in LGBT marketing. I couldn't name 5.
yeah, and a lot of people today are hard to reach. I don't know about yourselves.
That's
but
actually, when you were going down the road of the media outlets, that's the one that I think is even more vexing, is we know how to avoid consumer messaging. We could read certain things, like, go online. Like, I'm not picking up a lot of the gay magazines and newspapers, but I'm getting tons of gay information. The Times reports on stuff that's meaningful to me, too. So you're right. It's getting to the consumer is almost as difficult as the channels that are available to us, right?
And you may not be going to pride parades anymore, or gay cruises, or ski weeks, or whatever. How do you get to that person? It's extremely hard today, I would say. So that's a different question.
Did you go to the Pride Parade this year? New York Pride?
I did for a few minutes.
So you did. Well,
I
at
have
least
a
you went.
child in a
No, but hey, at least you went.
Alex.
2.5 million people there. It's kind of hard to
At
navigate.
least you went.
Yeah.
At least you went. A lot of people don't go.
Yeah, well, and some people may have been fearful this year, or whatever.
It was so
but-
close to that horrific
Yeah.
brutality in Orlando that it was, and it seemed we were too close to that event in terms of the facts that started to flow out that would have reassured people that maybe that wasn't going to happen in New York or Philadelphia or other cities.
And New York of all places, I mean, I think we always kind of feel like we have a target on our back because so many reasons.
Yeah.
More than any other city almost.
So before we let you go, so do you think...
I did want to make another point, if I can jump in, which, going back to some of what we were just saying before, I think that what is always important, and we still don't see enough of, is attention to research. You guys brought Subaru into the marketplace on good research. You had a reason.
Facts.
Yeah. Well, you had a reason. It wasn't just a nice idea. It was, you found that breakthrough moment of
business validity.
Right.
Of why to sell to, the LGBT market, and you found that your customers were already there, and that you indexed highly with them. That came out of, insight, and there's not enough of that attention.
And we used to always say everybody sells cars to gay and lesbian consumers. We just admit it.
Because they're all buying them.
But I mean,
all buying
right? I mean, everyone, as a consumer, John always used to say, there's
no gay market.
There's no gay market, but there's millions of gay consumers.
Yeah, but
and if
18 million gay consumers.
And if you tap into that, I think that's where you're going of the success. I think we're in an odd time, and that's why I think this AdRespect, and do you have almost every piece
biggest archive anywhere
biggest archive
on
ever
Earth of LGBT themed.
Wow.
It's right up there. That's why we need to be figuring out how to work with AdRespect because, Business Birthday, the only show in the universe. Right. AdRespect Archive, the biggest on Earth.
Biggest
archive.
Themes. Biggest archive on Earth.
In the universe.
We could do an ad a week.
We could.
And show an ad a week.
And you'd never get through them all.
Well,
we plan
might
on being
last that long. Yeah.
John's going to live to 130, he told me the other day.
There's over 5,000 so far, so...
We better
Maybe
do
we have to go daily.
That'll quicker, yeah.
So, Mike, we want to thank you for joining us here in the focus group. Mike is the founder of AdRespect.org, which was it formerly Commercial Closet?
Yes.
Okay. And if somebody, is the archive still available? If somebody would like to
you
look
could
at
sign up for AdRespect. It's
how
free.
do they give us the information?
AdRespect.org.
AdRespect.
RESPEC.
Thank you for leading into that.
You can sign up
I was
for
hoping
free.
you were going to,
I had a little jingle though. You can
us
sign up for free.
Well, Mike, we want to thank you. You've been a guest on our show before, and we always enjoy catching up with you and learning more about
I'll be back.
the evolution of gay and lesbian advertising. And so thanks for joining us here.
Thank
it's
you.
the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to take a call from a listener who brought us some Chinese Oreos.
Chinese Oreos.
Stay with us.
The Focus Group is brought to you by the Volkswagen Golf Sport Wagon. Turbo up front, wagon in the back. Visit VW.com to learn more.
It's time for Ask Tim and John. Call 914-FOCUS-GR
Drew did a good job on
and
this
ask
one.
Tim and John anything you want. If your question gets selected and used on air, you'll be sporting a pair of the famous Focus Group socks. Oh, and to make it a little fun, Tim and John will have no idea what question will be thrown at them. So be nice. Again, that number is 914-FOCUS-GR, 914-362-8747.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host Tim Bennett. It's time for Ask Tim and John. By the way, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher. If you're doing iTunes, by all means, subscribe, like, and rate us. Now, joining us is a listener who has probably caught the same bug we have based on what I'm looking at right now. I'm welcoming to the show Don Gworek. Don, did I say your last name correctly?
Perfect, John. Very good.
All right, so on our set, facing our camera, and if you're listening, I'll have to describe these to you. Don sent us from a recent trip to Shanghai, a Walmart in Shanghai, Chinese Oreo cookies. And here on the Focus Group, we're famous for our Oreo cookie fetish and our taste tests. And Tim,
John, I don't know if a fetish
Tim is
is the
looking
right
at these
word.
very strange. All right, so Don, tell us about why you go to Shanghai all the time and why you seek these out.
Well, when you travel internationally, you discover that Oreo tests different types of cookies in different types of markets. So specifically, China is the only place in the world right now where you can get dual flavor Oreos, which means there's a flavor on the left side and a different flavor on the right side in this stuff. So I saw a couple of packages, and I knew a couple of guys who would like to try these.
All right, so
I sent you.
You sent us. Now, I'm just going to, I don't understand this writing at all. And in fact, Don told me via email that if you tried to pronounce this name, it could be like a nasty word or a slur. Did I read that right?
Not a nasty word. No, not a nasty word. You would say it with an accent. And of course, when you try to speak in an accent, it usually comes across derogatory. It's the equivalent of Oreo. It's just said with a Chinese accent. That's all.
Yeah.
Oleo?
Oh yeah. All right, so
don't go there.
Did you? All right, so I'm guessing this is raspberry and blueberry, and you're holding.
Mine looks like grape and peach.
And we only did this based on the illustrations of the fruits. All right, so we're gonna. Did you try these at your office, by the way?
Oh yeah, I actually there's a friend who has children of Chinese descent, so I passed along a couple of packages. And I'll share what they thought of the flavor when you share.
Okay, wait. First and foremost,
better packaging than les États-Unis.
Yeah, you not only do you get the box, but you also get inside of it this kind of. It's wrapped in a separate thing. But did you notice the box is about an inch longer than the tube? So you're buying a lot. You're buying some air. You're buying some air there.
How much are these, Don?
Yeah, in American, how much?
Usual type of a cookie cost. Gosh, I think the price in yuan is on the box, but gosh, I don't remember.
Well, it says 106. It says 106. I'm just wondering what the equivalent is.
106 yuan is about 70 cents.
Oh, okay. So that's.
I'm having the.
Sorry, no, $1.50. $1.50. Sorry.
I'm having the.
$15.
Okay, I'm having the blueberry and the raspberry one, and so far I feel like I'm having bazooka. Remember that bubble gum?
It smells like a candle to me.
You're getting to exactly what the kids thought. They thought it was flavors like Fruit Loops or Pebbles.
Oh my God, he's right. This is like that fruity Pebbles.
Am I wrong? But the colors of mine look.
That's green and red.
Green, or am I colorblind?
I just got some kind of.
Yep.
I just kind of here. You got to try one of these, Tim.
Green would be the grape color, and then the red would be the peach color.
They're sour and it's sour and sweet, which I kind of like. But I'm a little bit surprised that they smell like candles. A little bit to me, anyway. They smell like a candle.
They do have a smell. Oh my God!
Particularly this grape one.
It's the same cookie though. I wonder if they ship the cookie. So Don, people could follow Don, by the way, on Twitter. His account is BioReconstruct, and Don travels the world and checks out all the rides that we love. So you're down in Orlando, and you're surrounded by some of the best parks, right?
Yeah, in fact, a whole lot of things are either opening or have opened. People are looking right now at Skull Island, Reign of Kong. It's a brand new King Kong attraction at Universal. And it's in test mode right now. They've put up some billboards. It's not officially open, but it's a really exciting ride.
So Don, when they
Disney,
when they put up new rides, old rides go away, right?
Sometimes, and then sometimes they're rebuilt, which at Universal, to update the Hulk roller coaster, completely tore down the Hulk and built basically a copy, but with a couple of variations, and that's going to open up late summer.
Don sent us. I think we have to have Don on again at some point just to talk rides and parks, because I got some cool pictures of the Shanghai Disney World. Oh, and we're putting up now. So Shanghai Disney has the biggest Cinderella castle in the world, right?
Yes, it is. It's not the Cinderella castle. It's the Enchanted Storybook Castle. Yes, the Disney castle.
Stickler for detail. I like it.
Yeah, the idea is that many princesses share that castle. And there's actually a tour where you go up to the second floor and can look out, and it's the story of Snow White when you take that tour.
Ah, okay. And then their version of Pirates of the Caribbean looks incredibly elaborate, almost more elaborate than the one I remember in Disney World Orlando.
It is amazing. Seek out the YouTube video. It starts off familiar and then turns into something incredible. Large sets, huge movie screens, and it's all based on the current series with Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp is in the attraction quite a bit.
Oh.
Do you work for Disney?
No, I'm just a blogger, a big parks fan.
Wow.
So practically every day I'm in the parks checking up on construction progress.
Wow, well, good for you. Well, we want to thank.
It's a fun little hobby.
Well, it is, and as John said, we'll have to have you back to talk parks.
So
but thank you for the cookies.
Wait, we need to rate these flavors. What do we think?
Do you have a favorite, Don?
Yeah. What did your office think of these?
Anything with raspberry is good to me. I love the raspberry blueberry.
I'm going to say
raspberry with chocolate.
Yeah, I think I liked the raspberry blueberry better than the green apple and peach. I got an aftertaste on that green apple flavor.
The grape and it's grape
and peach, sorry.
Grape and peach smells like a candle to me, but I kind of like the sour and sweet of that one. So I'm going to go with
So Tim chooses, you get grape and peach, and I would do what Don likes, the raspberry and the blueberry.
Raspberry and blueberry. Thank you, Don, for these. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to have you send the photos. And we're going to have you on again to talk parks soon because, Tim, do you like roller coasters?
No, I hate roller coasters.
See, I think we need to move him off that. You need to.
I'll go on Space Mountain, but I won't do a roller coaster. I don't like the big. I'm afraid of heights.
There's all kinds of things I could talk about. Like they've introduced demand pricing, various marketing programs, all kinds of stuff. I can talk as business.
That'll be fun.
Excellent. All right, Don, I want to thank you.
It's Don Gwarek joining us. He sent us from Japan Chinese Oreos, so we appreciate it. It's we liked our flavors, and we're going to be all set. So hey, it's a focus group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. We want to thank you for joining us. Be sure to subscribe, like, and rate us. And we want to thank our partner here in the focus group, also Volkswagen of America, who's been with us for 7 years. We're delighted that they continue to support us here in the focus group, and we're looking forward to our road trip, which is going to take place later in the fall when we're going to try out the new Golf All-Track Sport Wagon. John and I plan to go to some of America's great parks and kind of off the beaten path places out west in the Rockies. So be sure to stay tuned for our road trip this fall. It's a focus group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Hope everyone has a great week.
Join the focus group on all forms of social media. It's easy. And like good marketers, our branding is uniform across all platforms. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope at Focus Group Radio. Again, join the conversation across all of our social media platforms at Focus Group Radio.